Hello everyone, welcome to a new chess video. Welcome to the missile trap, a trick that will let you win in just 8 moves and leave your opponent stunned with no options left. Guys, I need your attention for a moment, please. I need your help. YouTube is taking away a lot of our views and wants to shut down our channel. If you like this content, please help me out. Anything helps a lot. A like, a comment, subscribing, any of that, and I'll be truly grateful from the bottom of my heart. Let's all stick together. They won't be able to beat us. Thank you so much. All right, now enjoy this amazing trap. This trap starts with e4 and happens in the Scandinavian defense. d5, e4, d5 Scandinavian defense. The opponent who plays the Scandinavian defense knows that the usual thing is to capture here and then recapture with the queen. But we're going to set up the missile trap, which has nothing to do with capturing here. Instead, we're going to give up this pawn and even let them attack our knight right from the first move. What do you think? Does this trap look good or not? First of all, thanks for all the support, guys, because I'm getting a ton of comments and I love talking with you. You know I reply to everyone. And thanks for all the likes. We're breaking records for likes day after day, so thank you so much. Let's keep going with this spectacular trap. They're attacking our knight. Where are we going to put it? Well, the ideal square to put it on is right here. Why? Because we're attacking this pawn, and now, for example, they can't chase our knight away, since we just take back the pawn and all the advantage would be ours. So what they have to do is develop a piece, like the knight, while defending this pawn. That would probably be the best continuation for black. So what are we going to do? We're going to make a move like d3. Notice that now, we're letting them trade a pawn, and since black has an extra pawn, they'll probably think, well, I'll just trade this pawn. And now, after this move, I don't just keep an extra pawn, but I also end up with better development. Well, actually, not better development either, but at least an extra pawn. Let's leave it at that, an extra pawn. What happens now is that most people fall into this mistake here. Notice that they try to, oh, this knight really bothers them, so they try to make it go away. But this is already a huge blunder. And here comes the missile trap, also known in the Tennyson Gambit as the Tennyson Gambit trap, which is what we played at the beginning, alright? We sacrifice this knight, which has to be captured no matter what, because if it isn't, we're attacking the queen, and if the queen moves away, we take the rook. So this knight absolutely has to be captured by the king. And here, we'd already be winning the queen. How? With this missile sacrifice, here comes the missile, it's brutal. We check with the bishop. Notice that we're attacking the queen, so she can't drop down to defend herself because of the bishop. You have to take the bishop, and now we take the queen completely for free. It looks like we've already won here, but it's not the first time I've seen online that people say we've already won the game at this point, and it could still get complicated for us. The opponent has a lot of tricks here to stop us, and I'm going to show you mainly how to keep this advantage, which is actually pretty simple. Notice that here, one trick could be if black plays this move here, e5. Now, I've seen in an online tutorial that they're telling us to take this pawn and get out of the pin. What's the pin? This one right here. Right now, black is threatening to check us with the bishop and take our rook. So we have to get out of this pin. And I've seen that a very typical move would be to take this pawn here. Well, that would be a huge mistake because after the move knight to c6, where is this queen gonna go? This queen is completely trapped. She can't go here, she can't go there, she's totally trapped. And after a move like, sorry, this pawn is here, okay? A move like castling or knight to c3, notice that, for example, knight to e8 is threatening the queen, and this queen would be completely lost. So this queen can't go anywhere. Can we take this pawn? No. So here, if instead of playing d5, they try to set another trap like knight to c6, which doesn't seem to threaten anything, can we take this pawn? No. Why not? Because after e5, we'd be caught in the same trap again. This queen can't go anywhere because she'd be captured, and after whatever move, knight to e8 would come and we'd be caught in the same trap again. So what should we do if our opponent plays either e5 or brings the knight over here? Well, the move you need to make, no matter what they do, is you have two options. One, you play it safe and bring the queen back to her original square, d1. That'll be a good move, that's right. Why? Because it's true that we'd be a bit passive and we wouldn't have any pieces developed, but the advantage of having an extra queen is so big that it makes up for it. After whatever move, we castle and just chill. And the move I like is to put the queen on d3, giving a check, and now, yes, being a bit more active in the position. For example, if they come this way, then now we could just castle, and we'd be left with a completely winning position, and our queen would no longer be in danger. Notice that this trap happens in the Scandinavian defense, e4 d5. This trap is absolutely powerful, but of course your opponent has to play the Scandinavian defense. And most players here play e5 or even c5. But d5, even though it's played a lot, and I'm sure it's been played against you 1,000 times, is not the main defense. I'm going to show you a way to make them play it against you much more easily. We'll start with knight to f3, and notice that the knight on f3 is protecting the e5 square. Therefore, they won't be able to play e5. Instead, they'll play d5 against you. And once they play d5 against you, expecting us to play d4, we're going to play e4, and now we're in the same position as the Tennyson gambit. We've just switched the order of the knight and the pawn. Why? Because if you start with e4, it's rare for them to play d5 against you, though it does happen, but if you play knight to f3, it's very likely they'll play d5. So we'd reach the same position, but through a different and much easier route. Notice then, if what we need to do is start with knight to f3, the most common move, as we've seen, is d5, but it's not the only one. They might also play, for example, knight to f6. And let's see how to play here to reach the gambit again. Like I said, the most popular move here is to play d5, right? So that's what you'll see most of the time. And then you already know what to do, e4. If they play knight to f6, you're going to play d3. Why to 3? Because now you're targeting this square here with e4, and your opponent isn't going to let you play d4 with the move d5 because we'd be losing a pawn. But here we're going to do it anyway, and after the exchanges, notice that here we'd be giving away this pawn. But when they take this pawn here, we already know that we shouldn't recapture, but instead bring the knight over here, and we'd be in the same position. The opponent trades these pawns, we bring the bishop over here, and we're back in the same trap, threatening that massive missile. If they play h6 again, which is actually the most common move here, you already know we can sacrifice the knight, and again, when they take it, we launch the missile here, they can't retreat, so we'd be in the same trap as before. Now, I'm going to give you a bonus tip that's pretty funny, and if you play online, you can use it in a lot of games. Imagine we play knight to f3 as our first move, knight to f6, d3, and here, instead of playing d5, our opponent plays a move like g6. There are a lot of players who play like this because they've memorized this setup, bringing out the bishop via g7 and then castling. And this is a very powerful setup. You know that tons of players use it because they've memorized it. So after d3, they play g6. I'm telling you, this is a little trick for when you play online because people do this without thinking. They make pre-moves. Like I said, this is a bonus, just an extra tip, okay? It's a really silly trap. We're going to play e4, and after bishop g6, be careful because they're making pre-moves. They've already set up the castling pre-move here. So when you play e5, I checked the database, and it can't be that we're threatening the knight this easily. And you wouldn't believe that 70% of people just castle right away without thinking about what we're doing. So we take the knight and end up with a huge advantage. And here, if they don't have the pre-move and move the knight out, we can just continue with a totally normal game. But I encourage you, if you're playing online and someone plays this setup against you, to try this move, because actually I've tried it myself and yep, it works. I played 2 games, and in one of them they castled and I took this knight. It's a totally silly trap, but it works. So we've seen what happens if, starting with e4, they don't play this move, which is why we're starting with knight to f3. Let's say they play knight to f6. We'll play d3, as you know, to prepare for d3 and e4. After the exchanges, we've said that we bring the knight over here, threatening this square. And if they took here, we've seen what happens. We fall right into the trap. But a lot of players with the black pieces, instead of taking here, first bring their bishop here to attack our queen. Let's see what to do in this case. We could get into complications here, but we want to keep the trap active, so what we'll do is queen to d2. It's simple. You attack my queen, I move her to a safe square, and I keep the trap going. offering you this pawn exchange, which I'm going to capture with this bishop here. Now, here, as usual, what's the move black plays most often in this position? They're bothered by the knight and chase it away. Huge mistake. But what happens here? Even if they don't play h6, if they play, for example, g6 to develop the bishop this way, the trap would be the same. We take with the knight here, even if the pawn is on g6, it doesn't matter to us. They have to capture no matter what, because otherwise they'd lose their queen or rook. And here we bring the missile back again. Even if the position is slightly different, the trick or the trap is the same. They can't go back to defend the queen, they have to take this bishop and we take their queen. Notice that no matter how much some details change, the trap is still the same. Why am I showing you all these options, and not just one like most channels do? Because in a chess game, there are so many options that the more we know, the easier it is for them to fall into the trap. That's why I try to give you lots of options for what your opponent might do. That way, no matter what they do, you can set the trap for them. Check out this variation because it's spectacular. Knight to f3, knight to f6, d3, d5, e4, and look here at a spectacular variation from black. It could be that they capture here, and you already know what we have to do when they capture us. Place the knight over here, and now they come at us with the bishop to f5. This is a very, very interesting position, and we have to think about what we need to do here. The move we're going to make in this case is knight to c3, and let me explain why. Notice now, what are they threatening us with? Well, they're threatening to capture this pawn, and if we recapture with the bishop, they can simply trade it off, and now there's no trick left. We end up a pawn down. And also, when they attack this knight, we'll have to move it because we don't have any counterattack. What happens is that if they take this pawn here, instead of capturing on d3 like they expect, which would mean goodbye to the trap, we actually have a pretty interesting, a really interesting hidden move. Queen to f3. Queen to f3 creates a double threat, the bishop on f5 and this pawn on b7. So there's only one move that defends both threats at the same time, which is bringing the bishop back to its original square. A bishop that had to leave this square here, and now we can capture this pawn and end up with a completely overwhelming development advantage. It's true, we're down a pawn, black has played very well, but we have a truly impressive attack. We're gonna castle on the next move. Plus, all our pieces are well positioned, and the one that's left can come out right away, while black still needs 3 moves to castle. 1, develop the bishop, and 3. So, with all their pieces stuck back here, we have a pretty interesting advantage. Alright, chess teacher, it's great that you tell me I have a winning advantage here, but if you don't explain how to win, I won't be able to do it. Well, obviously I'm gonna explain how to do it. For example, they play e6, which is a totally normal developing move, as I said, to bring out the bishop and castle. We continue, for example, with bishop to e3. Black can continue, for example, with bishop to e7, staying calmly passive. We castle long. Why long? Because this rook, look where it ends up, lined up in an x-ray with this square, for example, with the queen. We're threatening check and to take the queen on the next move, a discovered attack. So they have to defend themselves, for example, with knight to b7, and here we're going to make a move that's very important for you to remember if we reach this position. Queen to h3. It's a very interesting move, and I'm going to explain why. Notice that if they chase away this knight to avoid problems, we're not going to sacrifice it here. The trap comes from somewhere else. We're going to sacrifice the knight over here. Notice that we're already completely winning, right? They have no choice. They have to take this knight. Why? Because notice that this queen is trapped among its own pieces, so it has nowhere to go. And when they take our knight, we'll bring in the bishop here with check. The king's only option is to move here, then we'll bring in the queen this way, and checkmate on the next move is absolutely unavoidable. Notice that the only move that could defend this position might be bringing the knight here. Besides the fact that they're just giving it to us, they're also giving us the queen. They could also try bringing the queen over here to defend, but we just take it and that's it. So at this point, we've totally won. Either it's checkmate or they give us the queen. So this is a completely winning position. I'm showing you this in case any of you don't know how to continue from here. So I think I deserve a good like, right? Alright, let's finally take a look at one way black might try to defend after this gambit. You can start with e4, knight to f3, whichever you prefer, I recommend starting with knight to f3. When they take our pawn, we come here, and we've already seen what happens when they defend with knight to f6. All the strategies we had against knight to f6. But they can also defend with the bishop. Even though it's not very common, we still need to learn this move and how to counterattack it. The option we're going to look at in this video is d3, a super aggressive and really interesting choice. If you want me to explain the move knight to c3, which is a more solid move, but would make for a much longer video, a much more complete video about the Tennyson Gambit, just let me know in the comments and we can do it. No problem at all. The thing is, in this video, I'm going to show you the aggressive move, which is the one we like best, d3, setting up some spectacular tricks. So when we play d3 here, what is our opponent going to do? Well, the most common thing, obviously, is that they take this pawn. Pawn takes d3. Now, when they take this pawn, what are we going to play? Well, we're not going to recapture this pawn. Instead, we're going to play the classic move, which, if you've been paying attention to this video, we've already played before, queen to f3. Now, it's even better than before. Even though it's a very similar position, without the knight on f6, this queen to f3 is even stronger. We're threatening this pawn with 3 pieces, we're threatening the bishop, we're threatening this b7 square, so we're putting on massive pressure. Notice here that black has several possible moves. If they decide to defend this bishop with the move e6, what are we going to do? Well, here's what we're going to do next. We'll take the pawn with the bishop, and let me tell you, it's happened to me so many times that they capture the bishop without realizing that queen takes on f7 is checkmate. The number of times this has happened to me is just incredible. However, after queen to f3, the best move for black isn't e6. Actually, the best move is to take this pawn here. Notice that now we're starting to get a little worried. They're attacking our knight here, it's true, it's defended by the rook, but we'd lose a piece because, remember, this is just a pawn. And also, look, they're threatening something else. If we were to take this bishop here, for example, they'd be giving us checkmate. So this pawn here is starting to look dangerous. Don't worry though, we don't have any problem if we play knight to c3. We develop our knight, and now this pawn isn't doing anything. This square is defended by both the knight and the queen, so the queen can't get in anymore. And now, we're the ones with the threats. We're threatening this bishop, which now has to be defended. What we're going to do here is a classic, brutal sacrifice that's typical of this gambit. Notice that we're down 3 pawns, and we give up the knight here, which they have to take no matter what, because we're setting up a spectacular fork. And now, taking advantage of the pin of the queen against the bishop, we'll play g4, putting massive pressure on the bishop. Look, we've won this bishop for sure. There's no way to save it. Black might try a move like bishop to b4, putting more pressure on our position, trying to stir things up a bit by getting rid of this knight here, which is the main defender against the queen's entry. But this doesn't cause us any problems. Let's see what happens after the exchanges. We'll just take this bishop here without worrying too much about this exchange here, for example, since we'll recapture with the pawn. Yes, it's true, we're damaging our pawn structure, but we're not too concerned because now, after black recaptures this pawn, we're not going to take with the queen. Instead, we're going to bring more pieces into the attack. Bishop to c4. Let's give some power to our pair of bishops, which is super solid. Also, this king can't castle anymore, it has to move back. And what are we going to do? Well, obviously, we can still castle. We don't have this pawn, but that doesn't really seem like a big deal. We castle, bring the rooks into the attack, and they have to defend over here. What will we do? Well, for example, they could play this move first, right? There are several possible moves, right? Here we could play rook to e1, check. Now they really have to defend over here. We can also bring the other bishop into the attack, and just look at the pressure we have right now in the game. We're putting on pressure with the rook, with the bishop with the rook. We're applying absolutely incredible pressure. All our pieces are coordinated, and most importantly, the king is super unsafe in the center and can't castle. We have completely unmatched pressure, and there's just no way to stop it. It's going to be a win no matter what, as long as we play carefully. I hope you all loved it. I hope both you and I get to try it out in our next games and see what results we get. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and a comment. I love talking with you all, and I'll see you in the next video.